All right. Well, we are excited to have you guys today. I've got Peggy Mariner here today. She is a fellow Cloverleafer and is going to be talking with us with the Enneagram. She's been certified in the Enneagram. Gosh, when was that? Last year? You went through all of that? And
Probably been a couple years now.
yeah, and she's been using it way before then too, but went through a very long process Enneagram certification as well. So lots of information. It's one of our most popular assessments that's on our platform. And so we always get a lot of questions about it. Everyone's really interested in hearing more about it. So bringing Peggy in today to give us more information. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I would actually love in the chat if you would just chat in where you are dialing in from. I would love city and state to see that. And I will be introducing myself, Peggy Mariner. I manage coaching content here at Cloverleaf. Oh, I love Boulder, and I wish we had Jupiter's weather. I have been overseeing all of the coaching tips that you are getting through Cloverleaf and a lot of the assessment information that you have on your dashboard. What I hope is that all of that information is teaching you about what makes you exceptional, and it is equipping you to be activated in that more and more throughout your workday. And today I am going to be talking with that same sentiment about how great you are and how wonderful it would be if you brought that excellence to your workplace all the time, every day, every week, and not just in your workplace, but also to your life, to your family, to your friends too. And I have a PowerPoint we're going to be scrolling through. There are a couple. Do I have ability to share screen?
Oh. If not, I will.
I'm surprised how broad reaching our audience is today. Coast to coast over here.
Is it letting you do it?
Awesome. How about that? Okay. Beautiful. There are a couple things about Cloverleaf. There's a range of opinions or dispositions that people may have in regard to the Enneagram. Ours is pretty open-handed and generative. We think that you have options to manage your behavior, and we are not very predictive and finite with what we think any assessment result is. No assessment result gives you perspective on what your life experience is or your momentary professionalism or maturity. You know that, you manage that. And because of that, I think you always have agency over yourself to be and do whoever and whatever it is that the moment is calling for. You get to decide. So we are going to be spending some time in Enneagram talking about what its uses can be, also touching on each type and its motivation. But the focus of today, I'm going to spend most of it on team dynamics, on the larger concepts, not just on the individual. So this is really helpful to understand how this is a tool that can be used in the workplace, but also in collaboration with others. So I'm going to get started. If you have questions, just type those into the chat. Heidi is going to be monitoring and keeping track of what's going on. I will be closing with questions. And also, if you have interest in asking specific to Cloverleaf dashboard questions, that's available to you. I will be stopping into the Cloverleaf dashboard as well. So Enneagram can help your team to identify the strengths and challenges of these 9 different personality types. And it is helpful in building rapport, in managing conflict, in helping you collaborate. It also encourages diversity and appreciating each other's unique contributions. That is a component of psychological safety. So building that appreciation makes it more of an environment where you can foster creativity, you can see risky collaboration that might generate new outcomes that your team has never been able to achieve before. but you need to make it a place where it's safe to take a risk and there won't be negative consequences relationally or like accusation and having taken a calculated risk and it not panning out. You can use Enneagram also to enhance leadership development inside your team, for yourself personally. It can be a tool that you can use to build understanding of your own feelings, observing those in others, and just talking through things. As we get into the team dynamics, there are several different models that you can openly talk about as you are encountering difficulties or collaboration issues. So Enneagram is a map for personal growth. It can help you to understand some of your behaviors that are tied to core values. The assessment really is giving you perspective on what your primal socio-emotional motivations are. And that is going to impact your behaviors and also how you see the world. So Enneagram at its base level is about your motivations. It also, we're going to be talking about triads that impact decision-making and your interactions as well. And one of my favorite dynamics with this team functioning is how you deal with conflict and change, and even anticipating that there could be conflict or change. That is really helpful because you can flip into almost a primal reptilian, I need to survive situation and attitude without realizing it when you are encountering unexpected change. Okay, your type is really linked to your motivation. It gives you a number. Sometimes it can be challenging to remember what each of your types are, or what other people's are. And I would not be stressed about that if you are new to the Enneagram. Just sort of evaluate if you feel like the assessment motivation is accurate for you. When we get into wings, if your motivation, you feel like that is accurate, your wing is going to be a complementary way that you might behave. It can go left or right, and maybe you do both of those, but a wing is sort of chosen, or you opt into that, or it's assigned, however you feel like your journey with the Enneagram has gone, as the one you go to most naturally, behaviors and tendencies that you're doing without thinking. And this is another spot where Cloverleaf has taken a really generative approach. You aren't required or penned in to be any specific wing. You just have one that you might go to more regularly. So if I'm actually an Enneagram 7, and I most naturally wing to the 8. I have a lot of 8s in my life, and there's an intensity and also kind of some justice motivation that I can really present as 8 quite a bit. My motivation is very consistent with the 7, but that doesn't mean that I don't stretch to a 6 and operate with a very planful strategy. It is just where I go more naturally, and I see it most actually when I'm stressed out or in conflict, which we'll talk about later. So your growth, these are the little lines that you see off of each number. The growth and the stress arrows, these are going to be consistent for your type. Every type, they have the arrows pointing one direction or the other. That doesn't mean that you can't exhibit behaviors out of the other types. This is just some consistent themes that they've modeled out. So growth is behaviors that you might operate in out of this type. So a growth for a 7 is a 5. When you are most integrated, or when you are performing at like a peak performance level, or you are your best self. And that extension or wholeness that you experience for a 7 is like me becoming an expert at something, say personality assessments. And then I use my enthusiasm and excitement about this discovery to become an expert and then move on to use it to elevate other people. I would love for everyone to experience and be freed and released to be their best, and that they would feel empowered in the work they do and in the life they live. So that is a way that, like, me as a 7 can show up as a 5 in growth. And in stress, I actually know that I am beginning to be stressed out, or I have something that is causing me stress. I see that in my behaviors before it is in my consciousness. And I go to an Enneagram 1. And 1s often have a strong sense of what perfect is or what the ideal is. And in this 1 state, I actually become hypercritical, and other people do not meet my standards of what I think this perfection is. It can show up in how people are loading the dishwasher. That is a major red flag that I am stressed out, and I should probably take a second to go figure out what the real root of the stress is, because I can tell you it is not how a dishwasher is being loaded in my real life.
I can say too, I am also a 7. My wing is actually a 6. So this is my Enneagram type that's listed here. And that is very true. And with Peggy and I, we're both 7s. We're both, we exhibit that every day, all day. But there is a difference between us, and my 6 comes out way more than my 8 typically does. But I'm the same when I'm hanging out with all these 8s. I go there if I need to. My 1 when I'm stressed is everyone can't drive. No one can drive. Why can't we yield? That's where I get my frustration out, is normally in the car, is where I notice if I have major road rage, I'm probably a little stressed out from my day. So that's interesting. I actually had that the other day. I'm like, I'm being really mean to people today about, like, not mean, but just everyone's stupid today. And that's where that comes from, is my stress, for sure.
Were you able to figure out what you were really stressed out about?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
I don't always know, but sometimes that takes me a second.
Yeah.
So this is the motivations that our users might be experiencing, and each one is highlighted around the circle. So 1s, the desire for integrity, that's like an alignment between the perfection and reality. They want those to be together, and they also want to have personal integrity. They don't want their reality and the ideal of what they want to be, they don't want that to be compromised. The 2s, the helpers, they desire love, connection, support, and they often are giving that to others. And it is in a desire to be receiving that in reciprocity. The achievers, they desire success, and they are desiring to be successful, so that they are acknowledged for being excellent and getting it done, and being worthy of all of the celebration. Where originalists desire significance and value and being original. They are often creative, so they are seeing things and then able to generate or innovate something that is unique. Sages, these are like Gandalf. They want to be competent, and they acquire all of this knowledge. They know all of the things. And as they become more whole, they are also able to share all of that knowledge and wisdom with others. 6 desire security. They want to be stable and safe. 7s desire happiness, big pain avoidance. As a 7, I call myself a Labrador. If it's a good time, I'm going to be there. And 8s are challengers, like Martin Luther King. There are also some dictators that were 8s. And they do not want to be controlled. They don't always have to be in control, but they can't be being controlled. So there's a lot of independence and autonomy that they desire. And nines are our peacemaker. They would just like some harmony. Can I get some joy and calm in my life already? They can make really great teammates because they make space for everybody. They see everyone's perspective. So as we go through the types, these motivations can be your conscious and sometimes unconscious drivers of your behavior, of your values. And behaviors, as you become more of a whole person, can mirror every type on the Enneagram. But what is consistent with your type is an ongoing motivation. It shows up in different situations and in different areas of your life. This is something where Cloverleaf is really very invitational. If you can have behaviors of every type exhibited. It's your motivations that are going to be consistent, but also if you need to operate in a characteristic behavior of another type, that choice is available to you. It may take some thought, you might have to be intentional, but you still have that option available. It's one of the things I love about Enneagram is that it gives you this language and this perspective of how you can do whatever you need to do for the situation or for the mountain you need to climb. And this helps to give you language and identify the choices that you have available to you. So one other thing I want to say is sometimes you may get different types, and like that's okay. That's okay. Taking an assessment does not mean that you are this number. This is a piece of information that you can take back and evaluate and see if it fits you.
Yeah, I would say for me, when I first took the Enneagram, it was during COVID. It was right in the height of it. And so I am a natural helper on a lot of things. I love helping people. It's like the first thing I do. So when I tested as a 7, I'm like, that's wrong. There's no way I'm not a helper. I'm going to take it again. And I took it again and I got a 2 and I sat with it for a little while, and I'm not a 2. I wish I was a 2, but I'm just not a 2. The reason I finally accepted the 7 was the reason I like to help is because I like the activity. I like the excitement. I like being a part of something, and helping is just how I do that sometimes. So it wasn't about helping. I mean, obviously that's part of it, but the reason I would help is because I didn't want to miss out on helping, which is not really what a helper does. And I think it also helps to know a helper. Mindy Offerheidi is over our CS department, and she is 1,000% a 2. And seeing the difference that her natural reaction is to help. My natural reaction is to make sure, I see everything, I'm a part of everything. And there's just that little bit of a difference that, yes, that might always be helping, but the reason that I'm doing it is because I have major FOMO every day of my life. So yeah, it's really diving deeper into, like, as much as you want to be something else, like, no, I'm 7 is what it is, but I can also be a helper, it's just a different way.
Which that helper does show up in your DISC results too.
Yeah.
Not that we're talking about that today, but you are more than just a number or a set of letters. And that's one thing I love about Cloverleaf is that it gives you a bunch of different assessments as language to communicate what does make you exceptional. So if you are getting an assessment result that you don't think you are a good fit with, I often liken Enneagram to buying a coat. You get a coat, you try it on, you get your result, and you go, okay, maybe it fits. I think it could look good. I'm going to take this home. And I'm going to test run it in my life and observe how it works. I'm also going to get feedback from my friends and family and see if they think it looks good. Does this fit me? Is this the best? And it can be a journey and a process of discovery for you. I would be mindful in all of these different situations where you are observing behavior, which is indicative of another type. If that motivation matches you in that moment for why you are doing it. Is it because you don't want to miss the party, or is it really that you are deeply satisfied in service to others? All right, I'm moving on. We have multiple different triads inside of the Enneagram. A triad is just a bucketing of personality types where there have been trends identified. So the first one we're talking about is the center of intelligence. This is the most commonly known, and the two others are lesser known. But the centers of intelligence, this is where you are able to take information and data, understanding that you have from your own experience and feedback you're getting from the world, and you can leverage that to be informing your decision making. So you are acquiring information and it is helping you to make decisions, and it may also be a way through which you are experiencing the world. And I'm going to go into each of these. So the centers of intelligence are your gut, which is often a very physical, instinctual knowing. Your heart, which is not just emotional, but it's being able to read the energy and the vibe of a room. It's understanding in your audience or in a meeting if there are energy shifts and things, people are receiving things negatively, if there's unhappiness. You, as a heart triad, you would be picking up on those cues really quickly. And then there is head, highly analytical, paying attention to information. And there's additional components of this because each type on the Enneagram wheel, there are 3 different ways you can experience your center of intelligence. You're doing it externally, internally, or there is also a denial of some of the intelligence. So that is something to be thoughtful about as you are thinking, like, gosh, I don't know if this is a good fit. It's the center pie piece that experiences the denial. So 6s may be, if all of the information says this is safe to proceed, potentially a 6 would say, no, I don't think so. I think there's still cause to have doubt. I think this plan could still fail. We should still be looking for other outcomes. And 3s might deny their own feelings and value more highly the feelings of others or the impact of things on others, whereas 9s are sometimes denying their own desires and their own body intelligence to keep the peace. So those are ways that you can experience if you feel a little off on some of these intelligences showing up for you, it could be because you are one of those center pie pieces. All right. Our gut triad, they're often like hot energy, and it can show up as anger. Like that is, instead of feeling sad, it comes out as anger, or instead of feeling afraid, it can come out as anger. And their goals are to pursue their needs, assure their well-being, and be grounded in their present reality. And some things that are great about the gut triad is they're very good at establishing boundaries. They can operate independently. They often have a connection to the mission on a very deep level, and they are interested in advocating for others. Where the 8s may be doing it en masse because there is a greater good to be had. 1s might be doing it because the greater good is a better good. It is to achieve a higher ideal. And some blind spots for them is they can get very opinionated and they can dig in. They have strong emotional responses when they're frustrated, and they may not realize that their emotional energy, that hot energy, can be intimidating or overwhelming or negatively impact others. Because if they receive that energy back, it would be fine with them. They would be okay with them. And in the Cloverleaf dashboard, we'll look at this. There are tips for how the heart and head triad are able to work with the gut triad. Now for heart, they try to cope with wanting to be good enough, and they can connect with others. They can receive recognition. They're very good at empathy and understanding. Sometimes those, the fours, the creatives, that is part of their creative process, is by finding deep connection and using that empathy to generate a new thought or a new, like a new song. And some folks that I've seen in business that have fours are really prolific presenters, almost like actors that have become trainers. They are very driven to succeed. They're aware of others, and they can easily access compassion. Blind spots are that they're stalling or people pleasing, and they can be unaware of how negative emotions are impacting them, especially if they're feeling unrecognized. And that would, I think, would be especially for the twos, or if threes were not feeling like their victories were being acknowledged. Our app also has the head and gut tips on how to move forward with that. So for the head, they are coping with fear, like they're going to be able to think their way out of it or logic their way out of it. And they are hoping to minimize their anxiety, to get security, like knowledge will save them. And they are really confident in their intellect. And in a knowledge economy, many people operate in the head triad. And actually, you can become exhausted in that. And the best way to recover the head triad is to activate the other two. So to take a walk to activate your gut intelligence, or to journal about your feelings, or even identify some feelings that you're having. And that can give your head a break so that it's able to return to the knowledge economy work you may be doing. They're often prepared, they're informed, very committed. They may get stuck in the details with analysis paralysis, and they also would like to mitigate as much risk as possible. Blind spots may be unrecognized anxiety that is, they aren't able to access their feelings because they're so busy spinning in their head about the options and the data available. Are there any questions about that? Because I'm going to move right on to the social stance from our triads. Okay. The next triad that we're talking about is what you are using to, whether consciously or unconsciously, to get your needs met when you enter into a social situation. I love talking about this for the kinds of meetings you're having. If you feel like not everyone is collaborating or not everyone is operating or engaged, this can be a really helpful tool to walk all of the triangles to make sure that everyone is getting what they need. Because the next one we're talking about is what happens if you don't have your needs met. Then you enter into the conflict approach. So let's touch base on all of these. With assertives, they are showing up to a meeting. They know what they want. They don't want to be bulldozed by others. So they're going to say what they need. And they are very good for being independent, self-sufficient. They're confident. You can trust them to take action on decisions that they've made, but sometimes they are not checking in with their team. They aren't expressing needs they have if they feel like it could be weakness. And if you are challenging them, they could receive that really defensively. So assertives usually come in with some strong energy to meetings, and they might show up and say, hey, I need this report and I need it now. And they think that unless they're aware that people operate differently in social stances, they may expect everyone else to express their needs in a similar way. Whereas compliance are showing up, these are 1s, 2s, and 6s, they want to understand what the expectations are, the social norms, how a good meeting is run, and they want to comply to the expectations. They're going to do a good job for whatever is needed. They want approval. They're not looking for drama. They want to maintain security and keep their team intact and together. They are very good at being able to understand what is best in that situation. When I talked about that, like understanding the emotional energy of a room, they are understanding what is the unspoken and spoken expectations that people are going to have on you. And they're usually good at operating really well within those. Blind spots are that they might forego what they need to meet the needs of the team or the project or the social standards of the organization. Our third one, these internals. So they are showing up to meetings and they're gaining information, but then they need to synthesize. They have to go within themselves to understand what it is that needs done, what additional information they have, how they're going to get that information. And they do not rely on others to get those needs done. They're not going to show up and say what they need with big energy. They're going to figure it out. And if they need something, they are going to ask for it. But it is first, they go inward to draw up answers and understanding too. They're very self-aware. They can be great innovators, like creating new opportunities, taking circumstances and turning it into something good. They can also, in their minds, they are so busy acquiring that they can make really keen insights and connections where other people might not as obviously been able to make that connection. Blind spots are that they can be really internal and they can have difficulty taking action and engaging the outside world. One tip for how we can handle this is by walking the circle in your team meetings. If you know you've got internals that are showing up and they need time to think before they're producing answers, get them agendas. Let them know that you want everyone to show up prepared, or that for the compliance that we're going to be reading the documents in the meeting for the first 10 minutes before we move on to discussion and decision making. You can also have a plan that you want to get everyone's feedback before people start talking a second or third time, because assertives might be able to express their needs and their thoughts at the start of the meeting or as soon as they're finished with the document. You might want to get other people's feedback as to what that could be. Maybe you don't close a meeting until you've heard from the internals on your team. And that's one of the ways that you make sure that you've gotten everyone's buy-in. So questions I would ask is, have you seen this structure inside of your team? Have you ever seen a team meeting where this has played out? And then if you wanted to take this back to your team, you can talk about this and see if there's anything that you would want to do differently in your team meetings. Do you want to have these check-in questions? Would you want to change any of your processes? And for you personally, when you are looking at this, would you adjust your own behavior in a meeting or in preparation for a meeting, knowing that somebody on your team is operating different than you?
There was a question. How do you find out what social stance you are? Because it's not on the dashboard.
Oh, it's your number. You still go by your type. And this is actually getting loaded onto the dashboard in, I don't know, maybe as soon as this month, maybe not as soon as this month, but everything is complete that we can have this loaded. Now we're just waiting for for it to go live and for our developers to get in it. So it's just by your type. Any other questions about this?
Everybody's excited to see the ad.
Okay. So if you are showing up and you did not actually get what you needed out of your meeting, or you just know this meeting is so stressful, or we're going to my in-laws and it's just always a dumpster fire. And in that anticipation, or actually in that moment, you may flip into this conflict approach or the harmonic triad. And this is what happens when you don't have your needs met and you're experiencing tension or crisis on a high level. And you can start to behave differently without even realizing it. This can also be like I talked about with your wings, you can pivot between the two. You just have one you go to more naturally. And the same with your gut intelligence. Actually, all of those intelligences are in operation in you. You just have one that you lean towards without thinking. That's the same with your social stance. All of them, you can choose to operate in one or the other, but there's one you go to more naturally. And this can be true for the conflict approach as well. I said earlier, I was an Enneagram 7. I very much am familiar with how I operate in this positive dynamic, but in a house of, there's 5 in our household, and I have 3 Enneagram 8s. And we are a household of reactives too. When things don't go wrong, or when they do go wrong, we all come with a lot of hot energy.
I would say too, like as a 7, like I can 100%, like when you say competency, I'm assuming you're meaning like you want others to be competent and you want to be competent. I can totally go there too. But yeah, normally it's right away, look, everything's gonna be fine. Or I'll go to like the reactive or the competency and then go, take a breath, everything's gonna be fine. So it's interesting just in that moment floating between the 3, just for something quick.
And sometimes based on who I'm dealing with in that situation, if it's almost like if a role is already filled, I'll go to the one that's empty. So for the reactives, they respond with like in a very assertive way. And sometimes this is called the realness triad as well, or dynamic, because they want you to know how real the problem is. And they might even state it. I saw this in a team session once. Somebody was letting everyone know, hey, lunch will be here in 15 minutes. It is 15 minutes late, but it's going to be here in 15 minutes. And somebody said, I can't believe it's going to be 15 minutes late. And one of the other attendees was like, well, we have snacks and we can still get you a drink, and it's like, it's still coming. And that was a perfect example with that person saying, I can't believe it's going to be 15 minutes late. He just wanted to state it. He wanted everyone to acknowledge how real the problem was. And the person that's positive is like, it's not that bad. There's still silver lining. The glass is half full. And competencies went straight to a solution. They wanted to solve, and it was, I'll get you food. I'll get you snacks right now. So all of those can be really fast in how they can play out. And they can also drag on, because reactives, with their ease of expression and their comfort with emotions, if they do not feel like other people have heard them, they will repeat how real the problem is, and they may even do it with more intensity. So we'll talk about how that can look when things go badly after we review these others. The positives, they want to just avoid pain, keep some peace. They want everyone to be happy. And so they are going to tell you about all of the benefits and opportunities that are still at play. It's so good. The sun will come up tomorrow. And they have a very strong optimism and positivity. They also are always seeing the best in the world. So they can be a good dose of positive energy when you need it. But sometimes they can also flip into full-blown denial. So it is good to be paying attention and leveraging the optimism, but still keeping it grounded in reality. And for positives, acknowledging how real a problem is might be one of the most challenging tasks for them in a situation, because if they're pain avoidant, we're asking them to dwell in and acknowledge the pain of the circumstances.
Kind of in there was a question of any additional thoughts on how to pull in nines into a conversation and give them more safety.
So the biggest challenge for nines in terms of safety is them being able to identify what they really want. And if you can get them to acknowledge what they really want, like, so first the safety has to come with them within themselves. So sometimes you can provide that externally, but in order for that to be effective, they also need to be able within themselves to say what they want. I do think asking them what they want, asking them if they know what they want, just even those questions. And if they, some of the challenges of nines is that they can self-forget, or they can convince themselves they didn't want what they wanted because the rest of the team maybe doesn't want it. And they'll say, no, it's okay, I'll go with the rest of the team. If you are trying to get a nine in the conversation, they're usually great referees and they see everybody's side. Getting them in the conversation is sometimes remembering for them what they said they wanted and bringing them back to the moment where they stated it and revisiting that with them. So bearing witness with a nine of moments where they said what they wanted, that can be really helpful in building psychological safety. I would probably need some additional circumstances.
It's funny as you were saying that, because I've diagnosed my mother as a nine.
Yeah.
I'm pretty positive that's what she is. She's not taken the assessment yet, but she's a nine. And it's interesting, as you were saying, ask her what she wants. I'm like, yeah, I do that a lot. And I've learned that through the years dealing with her and knowing that she thinks differently than my dad as an 8.
Yeah.
And me as a 7. We're kind of all over on that side, but we act very differently in those situations. And I think when she finally gets asked, you sit there and just sit back and listen. That's when she finally feels like she can speak. It's really seeing that difference. It's really interesting. And Kelly Dwyer had said, it's hard being a 9. Yeah, I believe it, because it's hard. It's hard for us that want to help 9s sometimes. So yeah, I get that totally. That's great. And then side note, the different, what do we call those? The conflict approaches and those, will that be added to the reports as well as the dashboard? I don't know.
Oh, I don't think it is.
Okay.
I think that'll be dynamic in the dash.
Yeah. Okay. And we can always look into putting those in the reports too. Great.
One other comment about the 9, it would be making space, like plan for silence. And if that's uncomfortable for you, just know that you're going to be uncomfortable waiting for them to identify inside what it is that they want. Okay, positives, they're hype people and great. Competencies are, they are excellent at getting it done. They want to be productive, they want to be efficient, and sometimes for competencies, riding the emotional wave of reactives and positives is so taxing, they excuse themselves from it and they go right to a solution. They are looking to identify and go fully to logic and remedy as soon as possible. They can get overly focused on work, and it can almost be at the cost of others who are experiencing the circumstances in an emotional rise and fall with the positives and reactives. One thing about competencies, it's not that they lack emotions. They have them. They just have managed them, and they keep them shut off so they can get to a conclusion and solve the current problem. If your team is not able to find alignment, this can be a death spiral of confusion and conflict. It can be change. It can be just anticipating change. And it can come in with somebody just, it can feel like reactives are harping on the problem. They are stating the same thing again and again. And it's because they think nobody heard them. If they could get a response of similar velocity, acknowledging the problem, or even saying, you are so upset, you think it is totally unfair that they changed the budget mid-quarter, took away our resources, but they're still holding us accountable for the same level of outcomes. They will feel acknowledged. Yes, that's right. That is exactly how I feel. It is so unjust. It's unfair. I'm angry, and this never should have happened. And if you can just give them their feelings and what you heard them say, restate it using active listening, they will correct you if it was inaccurate, and that will help them to feel acknowledged. If you can get positives to just stay and bear witness to what has gone on, then they can be these opportunity identifiers. We still have a great plan that we've gotten done for this first half of the quarter. I know that we have a challenge ahead of us, but we have these great working teams, and we can still accomplish this by the end of the quarter. They will remind you of everything that is still going well, or of the opportunities available to you, possibly of additional resources that are maybe unseen when you started the project. And if competencies can just go through the emotional exercise, so for them it is also engaging in the emotions, it can help them to process the feelings. They have them, they just are not expressing them. Allowing them to go through that can help them to process and be more integrated as a person, where sometimes you have these feelings, they're shoved deep down, and they end up surfacing in ways that you don't realize, and they start managing your behaviors instead of you managing your emotions. And you really don't want your emotions managing your behaviors without you knowing it. It comes out in yelling at your kids over a incorrectly loaded dishwasher. I don't have to do that. So you can be in a death spiral of ignoring each other, or you can check in with realness, gain energy off of the positives, and then the whole team gets to use their intelligence together to come up with a solution that competencies have been noodling on this whole time. And if you are able to get that alignment, you can really leverage that momentum and be heading in a common direction aligned with each other. So that can be a virtuous cycle. You can even set up your meetings when you know things are going to go bad, where you time band it for people to state how real the problem is. Then we're going to talk about opportunities. Then we're moving on to solutions. And if people know that this is a dynamic that we're going to be walking through, it can help to gain alignment and move on in a much faster way. Do we have any questions about that? I might have to exit my screen there. Going to, we have our Cloverleaf at large. So this is the dashboard that you're able to look at for Enneagram. And right now we have the intelligence centers triads. One thing I love about this is I'm able to see who the gut intelligence centers are. I get an overview, which is very similar to what we talked about today. The strengths, what I can leverage these teammates for, what may be risks that I want to be paying attention to. But if I'm not a gut intelligence center, this is ways that I can operate and still get their intelligence, the instincts they have, the knowing that they have, and operate in health with them too, as somebody who's different. So I love that. If you are having questions about a person, you can click on their profile.
I don't think you know that guy much, do you?
No, I don't.
I
don't at all. So if we were to check out my sweet Heidi, where are you? You're at the beach, is where you are.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was going to look at Heidi, I can check out more of her profile. And we actually have coaching tips written for social stances and your conflict approach, not just your triads. So you are able to scroll through some of those. And we've got a new tool that I can say.
We're testing it before it's being released. So
oh, it's not public
no,
yet?
it's not public yet, but we'll give you a highlight if you want.
All right. So how do I help Heidi with stress? And we have those tips written here. I can scroll through ones that would help me serve her better and if she's in a big time of stress. Reserve your physical energy. So we're going to go for walks. We're not going to do any HIIT workouts.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and you can scroll through those as well. But if I needed to get more information specifically about Heidi, I can scroll to her Enneagram, and each of the bars on your dashboard is going to be information that can help you understand who you're working with and what you can do to be better for them, and also grow your appreciation for what they are bringing to the table. What else do we have in terms of our questions? Because I am going to let you ask away with our Q&A.
Yeah. I'd love to know too, how many of you are using Enneagram? I know we have some coaches and consultants on. How many of you all are using it in your practices? And also, like, I know we have folks that are just in the working environment. Are you using it in your companies yet? Have you heard of it? Is this something new to you? I'd love to know that in general. And I'm going to actually send out a poll as well, or I'd love for you to get some context of, you know, where you were before this, where you are after, get some feedback in general. And so I am putting a link to a survey. And so if you guys could take a minute to do that as well. In there's a question of any other topics you would like to hear. Obviously, we are going to be having these webinars, one on each assessment. We've had a few in the past. The recordings are available. So when you get the recording of today's webinar, you can also see other recordings of past webinars we've had on other assessments. And then our next webinar on an assessment, I believe, is in, what month are we in? We are in May. And our June webinar is on motivating values and culture pulse. And so a little bit of a different thing than a behavioral one. It's culture as well. So yeah, so those are upcoming. And I think we do have one of the questions here. So
that was me. Everybody.
Yeah. So Steve actually had questions in the questions and answers. So where were you able to type the question of how to help? Oh, that is a new feature. So we are testing that just internally first. So that's why you could see it on our site. So that's something that will be coming. I don't know a time frame of that, but it's I think they wanted to make sure we just tested everything, making sure nothing crazy is being done.
Scandalous. Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's fine. You guys, if you get to a webinar, you can see some cool new features that we're coming out with. So you'll see though, that does bring up a good point. We have a group that's working on those type of things to make things a lot more dynamic as well, that we're hoping that you guys don't need to like go out and, you know, flip through the things we think is helpful, what's helpful for you. And that's what we're working to make the system even easier to use, and meet you where you are. So yeah, great question.
And I have if you want to pop in chat, if there is any of what questions did you have that went unanswered today? If there was a similar Enneagram presentation again, what is something that you would like addressed? You had the question, you didn't get the answer.
And while you're thinking of that, I will also pop in the registration for the upcoming assessment webinar on culture, pulse, and motivating values. That is on June 16th at 1 o'clock. We are also scheduling a panelist discussion for those that are coaches and consultants. We'll be having one of those in June, I believe the 23rd. I don't have a registration link for that yet, but we will be sending out more information on that. But if you want to put I think actually I might have a web registration link. Give me a second, I might find it. But yeah, that'll be coming out soon as well. So Courtney had a question. Are there any activities or breakout groups that you would recommend when doing a session like this?
I always have people in small groups talk about if they agree with their type, if the allocation of you being in a certain intelligence center or social stance or conflict approach, if they agree that that is their most natural one. So one, I check in, and because people are different. I've taken an assessment where it says I externalize more as an 8, even though my consistent motivation is 7. So people experience me a lot like that. So that would be something, if you agree, why and why not? And then are there changes that you would make for yourself based on what you've just learned, or how you run your team? Is there any changes in your team that you want to make because of what you just discovered about those around you?
Yeah, and I will say that's something that we're looking into as well, to have more activities for you all. So Peggy and I have a meeting scheduled soon to put that in sort of a package for everyone. So more to follow on that. We have lots of ways that we've been using it, and we've kind of told everyone in passing or through webinars and things like that. And we're working on kind of gathering all of those things together and being able to get that to you. So
yeah.
Great.
I hope you enjoyed this. I love team dynamics, and I think it is such an asset that can be used like this week in your work. So I hope it served you as well.
Great. Well, we want to thank Peggy for coming on board. Natasha had a real quick question. Is there a possibility to do this either on a Friday or earlier in the US day? I'm in Switzerland. Oh, great. Well, we're so excited to have you from Switzerland. Yeah, we can definitely be moving these times around. We tried to make it as middle of the day, like middle of anyone's day, so those time frames aren't too bad. But yes, we will always be recording these as well. So if there's anything that you want specifically covered, we'll definitely make something happen for you. So I appreciate you all being here. Thanks so much.